Chief Medina, you came to talk about the state of APD, the developments, the improvements, the wondrous things.
Corey covered it all.
Oh, come now.
No, Corey covered, the DOJ part, the settlement agreement part, the monitoring part, the EFIT part, and they put a lot of hard work into it. It was great teamwork. Corey, Deputy Chief Brown, Deputy Chief Barker, Deputy Chief Garcia, they're all working hard. Deputy Chief Griego, they're all working very hard as a team, which has moved us in this direction of having that report. And that's kind of like, to me, there's four big things happening in the police department that, the community should be concerned about. Number one is, how are we going to get out from that settlement agreement? $1.7 million a year, I think, is what it costs us just with the monitor. And we got to be careful of how we invest public dollars. Eventually public dollars are going to dry up, and we're lucky that we're at a point now where there's a lot of grocery receipt tax money and there's a lot of oil money within the state. But eventually, we need to do everything we can to ensure that we don't waste public dollars. So I'm really happy that they're moving in the right direction in that area. The other thing that I think we all have to be concerned about is crime. Crime is through the roof throughout the city. We're still on pace. We had a good first 3 months, but we've had a brutal May in this year in homicides. And, we were down 13 homicides at one point, and we're about even again. The one thing I will say is, and this goes back in line when we were talking about the civilian investigators. I've long said that once they get them trained and give them training, and they're working on it now, it just takes a little bit longer because there's a lot of people who have to agree to the training and evaluation and everything because it's part of the settlement agreement. But if you look on the investigation side, we were no better with our homicide investigations. Look at all the blunders we had in the past in the media. We were clearing only 58%. We created that detective academy, and that was something we were able to do quickly because, we have there is no, bureaucracy to go through. I sat down one day and I told Deputy Chief Barker, give me a detective academy. You guys got 2 months. And you look what it's accomplished. We're at over 100% clearance rate on homicides. And we have 52 homicide arrests this year. I hope the courts are ready. I hope the courts are prepared because we're on pace to have about 110 homicides cleared this year, 110 arrests. And that's a lot of court time that's going to have to take. And, crime is a big concern. I'm happy to say that, we're getting the clearance rates we need in homicide, which was what the LFC report asked of us. A senator released that report saying there has to be certain swift punishment for them. So crime is still a concern. The three biggest issues we face, homeless individuals on my property, homicides, and speeding. Those are still the biggest issues that the citizens of Albuquerque complain about the most. And I'd be willing to say that one of those three are the biggest concerns probably of the CPC also. So we'll continue to work hard on crime. Our traffic citations have doubled for the year. Our arrests have more than doubled for the year. Our clearance rate is going through the roof. So fighting crime-wise, we're doing really well. And that's going to take us into the second big issue that I think we need to be concerned about as a city, and that is the criminal justice system. The criminal justice system is broken. There's no other way to explain it. The simple fact that we arrest the same people over and over. The simple fact that, the courts are shut down because of the pandemic, and they're just now moving forward. We've had to change our booking policies to book and release downtown as not to take people to the jail because the jail is so short personnel and resources, and they don't have enough personnel to get people to the courts. So it's not like the courts are just broken or just the DA's office is struggling or the jails or APD. It's the system as a whole needs assistance. So, we are starting another Metro Crime Initiative with the mayor's office. And this time we're going to focus on what we can do locally for some of the problems. And I'm going to really look to strengthen our nuisance abatement process. There are places that have more crime than other. We've seen it. We've talked about it for 2 years. some hotels that are seeing more crime. I think at one point in time, the Motel 6 at Avenida Cesar Chavez and I-25, 19 stolen cars in a 2 or 3 month period that were taken out of there. I mean, it is a crime infested area. We have to be able to address those places and either shut them down or hold them accountable a little more quicker than we have in the past. So the criminal justice system and working to strengthen some of our processes within the city and the state is still a priority of ours. We did have some good victories. We got GPS monitoring for pretrial release. That's a huge deal for us. I mean, it was a big fight, and I think it was also a big victory. We were concerned when a district court judge let somebody out on 2 homicides. I took criticism for voicing my opinion, but in the end, the New Mexico Supreme Court ruled in our favor 5-0 and said this person should have been detained after 2 homicides. So we are seeing the Supreme Court actively assisting us, and I'm thankful to the Supreme Court for the changes they've made and some of the things that we're seeing. One of the little things they did is they got rid of pretrial interviews for misdemeanor crimes while we clear this backlog within the courts. That's another big deal and assists the police department greatly. So, we talk about the last thing is that we're really should be concerned about is it is not a popular time to be an officer. We are losing officers. We've lost about 48 officers this year. The alarming thing to that is we've only had 24 people retire. We've had 24 people before the age of retirement quit the field of law enforcement. We've only had about 4 go to another agency. We've had a ton of people quit just to go work at Sandia National Labs, to go construction. So that's kind of just an overview of the department, and we will take questions at this point. Rowan?
I have a question from Mr. Turpin, who's one of our attendees. He asked, during what period of time was APD at 100% clearance rate on homicides?
Right now, we're currently carrying 100% clearance rate. And you got to understand clearance rates. You got to understand that, and this is an FBI standard. This is not an APD standard. Clearance rates are based off of the number of homicides you clear per year, even if they're previous year homicides. This year, we've cleared about 50% of the homicides already, and we've cleared and 50% of the homicides we cleared were committed in the previous years. So we've actually cleared more homicides this year than that have occurred, but it does not mean that every homicide this year has been cleared. And I want to stress that's not an APD standard. That's a federal standard followed by all agencies across the nation.
Thank you. I guess I have a question. 2 questions, really. One question is, you've always emphasized community. It's always been very important to you. So what initiatives do you see yourself taking towards more community involvement? I know you have Lieutenant Garcia community engagement. What else do you have?
Rowan, there's so much with community. And that was one of the 4 I always had on the list. And if you notice, I dropped it off the list this year because this time because we do so much with the community. Like, we have created that culture of community outreach, whether it's the ambassador program. In this past week, we met with ROTCs from the Northeast Heights to try to recruit more Black individuals into the police department, or whether it's meeting with and giving a press conference on the murder of an Asian massage business worker and standing together with the Asian community. We've done so much to work with the community. We've developed that culture. It's part of our culture now. We have coffees with cops for people to meet our officers. We have cop on the corner briefings for the public to go to and talk to our officers. Our officers are in community meetings, CPC meetings. Like, I really think that the culture has been created that just at this point needs to be maintained. I do want to continue to grow the ambassador program because I think the ambassador program is touching those segments of the community that never had strong relationships with APD. But as for community outreach, I think there's very few departments that have the level of outreach that we have right now.
Can you expand a little bit on the ambassador program? I've never been quite clear on it.
The ambassador program was developed for one reason. I think there's a lot of groups out there that never had a voice or an ear with the police department. They never had somebody to hear their voice, and that's what the ambassador program does. When I became chief of police, I had been working on the ambassador program as a deputy chief, and I implemented it. And the best examples I could use is, we have officers that are assigned to specific groups based on race, religion, orientation, all kinds of other factors. We even have some assigned to individuals with disabilities. So we assign liaison officers to work with these groups and to go to as many meetings as they can. For example, when a lot of the Asian hate was occurring last year, when they reached out to the Asian community, we had already met with them. And it was very beneficial when the media reached out that they said, yeah, we've already talked to the chief and we have a plan. The same thing now that, we had this homicide of this Asian massage business employee. As soon as we solved the case, I called some of the individuals in the community and were able to sit down, and they were at the press conference with us. Some of the other groups that we've worked with, the Black community, Black New Mexico movement, they were some of the biggest organizers of protests within the city, and we've really done well in developing that relationship. So the ambassador program is about making sure that every community has a voice, but also that we're learning cultural things from them and that we're able to bring it into the department and teach our officers. We've had our officers sit with organizations such as LULAC, the tribal communities, and we just continue to meet with these groups on a consistent basis.
Dr. Jameson, you have a question. You're mute.
Are you asking me?
No, I was asking Phil. He has a question on the chat, so I was giving him the opportunity to ask it, but he kind of disappeared. So let me read it out. From the chief's feedback, do the officers feel supported by the department, or is the issue frustration with the new operations? What is it? Oh, sorry, I saw you back, but I read your question.
You never get 100%. There is no organization that has that every single person in the organization is going to feel supported. I'll tell you, we've made a lot of great changes. And when I became chief, I developed a chief's breakfast. And every month we bring in a group of officers and we have conversations with them. And those first 6-7 months were brutal. You got to remember that we went through a period where, just today I was reviewing the statistics. 1 year ago in this quarter, we had 56 suspensions. That's basically a case where somebody was suspended with time off. This last quarter, we had 24. We about cut it in half. The first thing we did was we revamped that discipline process. The monitor in 2017, when I first came back, said, you got to fix that process. It's going to be an issue at some point in time. Didn't get fixed. When I became chief, I asked Commander Cottrell to work on that. It took him 9 months. All the parties agreed to it. We worked well together to fix that policy, and now we're seeing the fruits of it. But without a doubt, there are officers upset and hurt. And I think, I was talking to one of our behavioral specialists within the department, and I told him, I think our department has a little bit of PTSD from, the past 2 years, with whether it's everything that happened with the pandemic, the discipline that was occurring, the high levels of discipline, like everything that hit this department. Yeah, there are some individuals that they're probably scarred for a lengthy period of time, but slowly trust is being brought back, and slowly I see the officers more engaged, and our breakfasts now are 180 degree different than they were 18 months ago when I took over as chief.
Are there any other questions for Chief Medina? Does anybody have it? Oh, Mr. Anderson on the chat. Gun violence is on everybody's minds. I know it's a politically charged issue, but what locally can be done? I imagine officers must deal with potentially dangerous situations daily.
There's two things I'm going to say to gun violence is I think we'll have an extremely high number of officer-involved shootings this year because of the amount of firearms and the way people are behaving in the community. And we're not the only community facing that. Most agencies are seeing that increase. If you look in the metro area, we've had so many shots fired or officers assaulted that it's difficult. And their officers are concerned for their safety. The other thing with gun violence is I don't see homicides slowing down. I'm not going to sit here and lie to everybody and say, hey, we're arresting all these people. We have a lot of homicides, more than ever, that I remember involving mental illness in a single year. Just 2 days ago, we arrested an individual for murdering his dad and trying to bury his dad in the backyard. We had an individual at Tramway in Montgomery that was shooting people out of his bathroom window and killed a poor lady just driving home. Like, there are some big societal issues that we're having to contend with, and I don't think we fully know what the psychological aspects of what the pandemic did to society, but we're not the only city. Every city has broken their record for homicides, every major city in the past 2 years. The one that hadn't was Long Beach, California, and they already equaled last year's number of homicides at this point of this year. We're all seeing that increase, and it's disappointing, but we do need some common sense gun legislation. And I'm a big supporter of, I believe in the Second Amendment. I grew up in a different environment. I grew up in Taos. I hunt and fished my whole life. But there are some common sense things that we could do. And I hope that, all of our policy and lawmakers take into account and they figure out how can we do some common sense everyday changes and develop some legislation that is going to protect us. The number one thing the public can help us with is don't leave your guns in your car. More firearms are stolen from cars that are broken into than probably any other means. We average about 1,000 a year. So just think about it. In the last 4 years, from vehicles being broken into, 4,000 guns are on our streets, probably in the hands of criminals.
Dick, you have a question?
Sure, I have two. Chief, would you take a public position and come out strongly to lobby for a ban on assault rifles or high-capacity magazines?
I was the only chief who stood in Santa Fe to support background checks. And depending and looking at legislation, I may or may not take a stance on it. Like I said, I support the Second Amendment, but I think there are common sense ideas that could be brought into place. A mental health evaluation for anybody who wants to own an assault rifle. To me, there's the compromise of something that could actually get passed. If we continue to try to pass legislation as we've proposed it in the past 20 years, nothing's going to pass. It's going to die. Why can't we think forward and say, hey, how can we make something and propose something different? And my proposal is, everybody who wants to own certain types of firearm do have to get some kind of mental health clearance before they're able to own these firearms and pass a test so that we know that this person is of the right mind and that they're not intending to go out and do a mass shooting at some kind of institution where people are hurt. So I view it a little bit different, that I don't want to keep trying to do what's been done in the past and has failed. And how can we be innovative and find something that works?
But Chief, citizens are able to arm themselves more effectively than the police. They can have better weapons, better armaments, better armor, and more high capacity and magazines. And for just the simple fact of police safety, not the safety of the public, but the safety of your officers, it's important to come out to ban assault rifles and ban high capacity magazines.
I'm not going to have this argument with you here in this venue.
It's not an argument, Chief. Please, it's a discussion.
It's a discussion, but like I said, I stated my stance is the fact that, there's a lot of things that could be done to curb gun violence. Hey, how about we try keeping the right people in jail?
Yeah.
Everybody's always very, very ready to go to one extreme. I've said it over and over. Draw the line in the sand. Every time somebody shoplifts at Home Depot and pulls out a firearm on the poor clerk on the way out the door, how about we try to keep that person in jail as a first step? Like I said, we've tried to do this for 20 years, and if we try to do the same things over and over, we're not going to pass them. We got to be innovative, and we got to think, how are we going to make society safe and not rely on something passing that has never passed?
When it comes to assault rifles, I'm thinking your idea about the behavioral health assessment might be part of a package. Why does a person want to buy an assault rifle? What is their need for that? What is the reasoning for that beyond a mental health evaluation? Because I think people can pass those evaluations today and in a month or two not be in a good place. So what is the reasoning behind buying assault rifles for them to have to substantiate it?
Do you own any firearms?
Veterans? Yes.
No, do you own any firearms?
Oh, do I? In our household? Yes.
You know, and I think it's an individual choice, and I think that's where it comes down to is individuals have the choice. I'm a very avid gun owner. I'm a very avid, responsible gun owner. Every one of my guns is in the safe. I probably have about, a very large amount of guns, but I don't feel like, for me, it's a hobby. I enjoy going. I enjoy going to the range. I enjoy shooting. It is something that I personally like. Some people like golf. I have no feeling to ever play a game of golf. I've never played golf in my whole life. And I think that's where if we get stuck in this process of thinking of, we're going to eliminate something that people believe in and enjoy, and is their form of entertainment. If we focus on that, we're stuck in the same place we've been stuck forever, and we're not going to make any movement. I think we really got to, like I said, we got to be innovative and think, because everybody has different opinions. Some people like one aspect, some like other aspects. And I think it's important that we got to still kind of maintain what others are feeling and what they're going to, how they feel they're being impacted. So, like I said, it's a difficult conversation. We could be here for hours upon hours discussing this back and forth.
Sure.
Even within my own family, it's divided. But at the end of the day, like I said, I hope we could think outside the box and find ways and solutions to help curb this violence and not just stick in the same path that we have in the past.
Sure, it's not black and white. I agree with you. It's not black and white. However, there's limitations on everything. There's limitations on our speed. I would love to drive faster on Lomas. There's limitations for being part of society. And so I'm just looking at it not being black and white. It's all guns or no guns, but limitations. And
I agree with you. I agree that there's limitations, but there's limitations in everything. And even your example of speed, think about it. There is no speed limit in the United States that I know of that's above 75 miles per hour. Why are cars allowed to go above 75 miles per hour?
If I may add one thing, I mean, we get distracted by what's on the news and what's big and hot with Buffalo and with the shooting in Texas now, but we've got 60 murders some odd this year, and I don't think any of them have been committed with an assault rifle, have they? None that I can remember. So it's all handguns.
The one just down in Texas, he had.
Yeah, but I mean, in Albuquerque this year.
Oh no.
That doesn't mean it won't happen, though, Kelly.
Yeah, but we have a problem that even if that were to go away tomorrow, it's not going to change anything locally, because most people are killed with handguns, and some are illegal and some are legal. But the assault weapons get all the press coverage, but it really only happens a couple of times a year on CNN.
Most people don't know what an assault rifle is. There are different definitions, but an assault rifle is very difficult to obtain an actual assault rifle that you can put on continuous fire. You
Right.
can't go to the gun store and buy that. There are assault style rifles. They look like an assault rifle, but they're semi-automatics. I have a semi-automatic rifle. If the stock were different, it would look like an assault rifle. But you got to pull the trigger each time for one shot. That's not an assault rifle. It just looks like it. So banning what? Banning a rifle that looks like an assault rifle? That won't do any good.
I just want to apologize, Chief Medina, for laughing when you said how many guns you have, because I am so completely the opposite of you. I never saw a gun till I came to this country. Actually, I saw one gun, but it was criminals holding it, so whole different thing. But I haven't touched a gun. I've never had anything to do with guns. And my late husband wanted to put a gun in the house, and I said, fine, just don't tell me where it is. And he was like, what's the point then?
You know, Rowan, and people are like, there's a lot of things to be concerned about. I mean, you know, somebody just posted about a handgun. I just got back from Washington, D.C. Somebody with a 3D printer can turn a Glock handgun into a fully automatic handgun in an hour and a half with the right creation of this 3D printer, $180 3D printer. I mean, and that is problematic. And that's what I fear more is individuals who modify firearms to become fully auto, or people who modify anything that shouldn't be modified. And that's why I think, like, I mean, you even see it on this conversation here. Like, it really is a divided conversation. We got to find compromise and get to a point where we make a change that helps us, but we're able to get it done.
Okay, with that note, we need to get on to our command area concerns and issues. So, Chief Medina, thank you so much for giving us so much of your time.
No, thank you, Rowan, for having me here. And if anybody has any questions, you guys should have my contact info, hmedina@cabq.gov.
Thank you so much.